And welcome back to Hannity. President Obama is in Japan for the G7 summit, and during a press conference, he said world leaders are, quote, rattled by Donald Trump. Watch this.
They are paying very close attention to this election. I think it's fair to say that they are surprised by the Republican nominee. They are not sure how seriously to take some of his pronouncements, but they're rattled by him, and for good reason, because a lot of the proposals that he's made display either ignorance of world affairs or a cavalier attitude or an interest in getting tweets and headlines instead of actually thinking through what it is that is required to keep America safe and secure and prosperous, and what's required to keep the world on an even keel.
Okay, to borrow a phrase from Donald Trump, that was low energy. He needs to switch to caffeine if he's going to make those kind of comments. Donald Trump, addressing supporters earlier tonight in Montana, responded to President Obama. Take a look at this.
He was talking about Donald Trump, that other countries are very nervous. That's good if they're nervous. That's good. That's good. Right? That's good. Let them be a little bit nervous. By the way, I'll have a better relationship with other countries than he has, except we'll do much better, and they won't be taking advantage of us anymore, and they won't be calling us the stupid people anymore.
You can't argue with that. I mean, I think it's pretty evident that when the president says foreign leaders are rattled, maybe that is a good thing. Joining us with reaction, former 2016 Republican presidential candidate, former governor of Louisiana, Bobby Jindal. Governor, great to have you on tonight. Thanks for being here.
Mike, thank you for having me on. It's always great to talk to you.
Well, it's always a pleasure. You and I both are casualties of the 2016 race. We're sitting here talking about the guy who has won the nomination. But one of the things that he has done, he has spoken with very strong language. Governor, I want to begin with you with a word of tribute, because I feel like that you had said some very strong things about Donald Trump during the primary, but later you came forward and said, despite whatever misgivings, he was our nominee. You were going to support him. I thought you showed an extraordinary level of class, and I really appreciated that you did it with honesty and candor, yet you did it with the conviction of recognizing that it's Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. Do you think foreign leaders are, in fact, rattled by the prospect of Donald Trump as president?
Well, a couple things. First of all, thank you, Mike, for those very kind words. And I want to return the compliment. Look, the reality is you and I both waged fierce campaigns. We're fierce competitors. I went into that race thinking I'd be a better candidate. I thought you'd be a better candidate. Donald Trump wasn't my first or second choice. But it is a binary choice. It's Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton, and it's not about the Republican Party. It's about our country, and that's why I've said I'm supporting him, and I'd encourage others to do so as well. In terms of world leaders being rattled, I hope they are being rattled. And look, this says more about President Obama than it does about Donald Trump. For too long, President Obama cares more about world leaders' opinion, international opinion, than the opinion of the people that he actually works for, the American people. You know, if world leaders are rattled, that'd be a good thing. For 7 years now, under the Obama foreign policy, which was for a while run during his first term by then Secretary Clinton, Hillary Clinton, we've had a foreign policy where, Mike, we won't stand with Israel. We have a foreign policy where we weren't standing up to China. We won't stand up to Russia. There's a reason Russia's in the Ukraine. There's a reason that China is threatening our allies in the South China Sea. Our enemies don't fear or respect us. Our friends don't trust us. So I hope they are rattled. I think they've gotten too used to 7 years of a failed foreign policy. Here's what President Obama doesn't understand. I want foreign leaders to understand that America is strongest. We are safest and more secure when America is strongest. We need a president who believes in American exceptionalism, that isn't embarrassed to say, yes, we're the strongest country in the world, and we make no apologies for that.
You know, I think the person who was rattled was President Obama. And I'm looking back at when the Iranian Navy captured some of our sailors, forced them on their knees, hands behind their back, or when the Russians flew fighter jets just 30 feet above one of our destroyers. It was as if it was our president who was the one who was rattled and didn't do anything. React to those instances. Well, do you think Donald Trump will ever experience a moment where the Russians will fly fighters 30 feet above one of our ships?
Look, Mike, you make a great point. And those two incidents and other incidents, when this president drew the line in the sand in Syria, didn't enforce it, when he called ISIS the JV team, time and time again, he hasn't stood up for American interests. He has hand-tied our economy thanks to EPA regulations and deference to, again, international economies and other countries' jobs and economic growth overseas instead of at home. What Ronald Reagan understood was peace through strength. I think there's a greater chance that Donald Trump, rather than President Obama or Hillary Clinton, would understand and display peace through strength. Here's the irony. We actually have to deploy American forces less frequently if our enemies fear and respect us. Mike, if they really believe in American strength, they're not going to test us. The reason all these countries, you mentioned the Iranians, the Chinese, the Russians, the reason they're testing us, the reason you're getting those overflights, the reason that they're challenging our spy planes, they don't respect us right now. They don't respect the occupant of the White House. That has got to change. And that's why, for those Republicans that are in the never Trump category, and look, I have all the respect in the world. Many of my friends are in that camp. If they need more time to get here, that's fine. But we have got to win this election. You and I both in Iowa and across the country said this was the most important election in our lifetimes. We're on a path towards socialism. We either mean that or we don't. You and I both meant that, and that's why we think it's so important that we not have a third term for President Obama, we not have Hillary Clinton in the White House.
Gov, we've got less than a minute. We're in that magic funnel where we're getting down to the last grains of sand. So in about 40 seconds, can you tell me, as a governor of an energy state, because Louisiana, major energy state, Donald Trump made a big speech today on energy. Why is he a better president for energy than Hillary Clinton?
Oh, several great things he said about reining in the EPA, more domestic production. He said, yes, I'm for green and renewable energy, but I'm for all of it. He said previously, not only is he for oil and gas, he's for coal. He's for spending less of our money overseas to other countries, energy independence. And that's great for Louisiana and the Gulf Coast. But, Mike, that's good for steel, fertilizer, chemical manufacturing jobs across the country. These aren't the minimum wage jobs that Hillary Clinton talks about. These are good-paying private sector jobs. Instead of folks being on welfare, Medicaid, food stamps, they'll have good-paying jobs with a strong energy policy. I thought Donald Trump did a great job today differentiating himself from the culture of dependence represented by Hillary Clinton and President Obama.
Governor Bobby Jindal, thanks for joining us. Great to see you, my friend. Thanks for coming on.